Welcome to my fifth session of my book study on the book So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. And today I'll be discussing Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. Chapter 8 is entitled, What is the School to Prison Pipeline? And she starts by telling the story of a mother who received an email at work that she was supposed to pick up her son Sagan from school because he had assaulted his teachers. He had hit two teachers and pushed another. He had acted out and refused discipline, and he had used his fingers as a gun. And he was going to be suspended, and a school board member had recommended that he have charges filed against him. And the mother talked to the author, Ijeoma, and said, but this is my little boy. He's only 5 years old. He's never been in trouble before. He was having a bad day. From the beginning of the day, it was not going well. And every time they gave him discipline, he just acted out more and more. He's just 5 years old. And the author said, I've had 5-year-old boys, and I know that sometimes they are disruptive. But the discipline that was used was overbearing. There didn't seem to be any effort on the teacher's part or the part of the administration to find out what was the matter or to try to redirect the anger or to find some other solution. And she said that was just an example of how children of color are not given the benefit of the doubt, and the suspensions and the expulsions can just lead one to another. She said luckily this mother was able to convince the school to let her son back in, but she worried that his joy of learning was lost and his defenses were up from then on. The author says that our public school system sees black and brown children as violent, disruptive, and unpredictable future criminals. The statistics are that even though 16% of our kids are black, they make up 30% of suspensions, 40% of expulsions, and 70% of arrests. So the school system is marginalizing, criminalizing, and otherwise failing our black and brown kids. So when a kid is suspended or expelled, it begins that process where they're alienated from school and eventually end up in the criminal justice system and in prison. And it's because our system is not set up to understand what these kids are going through. Chapter 9 is called, Why Can't I Say the N-Word? This is a pretty touchy subject, why white people can't say the N-word. And she tells a story about when she and her brother were kids, and her mother, who was a single mom, had to go on a business trip. So the mom asked some of her friends, a couple who live in Gold Bar, Washington, to take the kids for a week. And they said, sure, they can play with our kids. So they spent the weekend there and everything was fine. They had a good time, it was relaxed. They played with their two new friends and went in the woods and explored and had fun in the house. And on Monday morning, they said, wouldn't you like to walk the kids to the school bus? So they said, sure. They walked them to the school bus, and when it pulled up, some kid leaned out the school bus window and said, look, and he used the N-word. And all the other kids on the bus joined in and used the N-word against them also. And their friends were embarrassed and they were shamed. They didn't know what to do. They went back home and they felt so pained by what had happened. And the mother could see that something was wrong. And the next morning she asked, would you like to take the kids to the school bus again? They said, no, we don't want to go. I said, well, why not? And they couldn't say. It was too embarrassing. And even when their mother came and picked them up at the end of the week, they couldn't say. And the rest of the week had been ruined. The tension was just so thick and no one could talk about the word. It's painful. She said that words have power, and the N-word has been used to express hatred ever since it began back in the 1700s. It's been used to oppress and to dehumanize and to separate people. And people of color have inherited the pain of those words. So even if people of color have reclaimed the word for themselves, it's still oppressive for white people to use that word. Why would you want to use that word? Why would you want to inflict that kind of pain? And why would you want to rub in your privilege on a person of color? Good questions. So that's the end of my book study for today. Hope you'll join me next time. Thanks.